Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you for joining me on my channel. It is Friday night, so we're doing our live readings. This week we're doing astrology. Those of you guys who are waiting in the chat, thank you. Definitely feeling the retrograde shadow, and the retrograde has not even started yet, and I'm over it. Hopefully you guys are doing well. It is Friday night. We've got a couple people who are already in the chat and in the queue. Thank you guys for joining me. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a Western evolutionary astrologer with an emphasis on predictive and also natal horoscopes. Some weeks we alternate, so every other Friday we do live readings. One week it's tarot, the next is astrology. It is astrology, Western astrology. We are looking at transits and we are also looking at natal charts. If you are a level 3 subscriber, or if you're not aware, I have subscriptions on my channel now for level 1 to support, level 2 for a shout out, level 3 you get one reading a month on one of my lives. If you're not a subscriber, check it out. It's a pretty sweet deal. People like Paula, Nancy, Jessica, Catherine, Anjali, Sam, Emma, and Susan are all subscribers. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Those of you guys who are level 3, who have not already gotten your reading for the month of September. Looks like we still have Paula, Nancy, Jessica, Catherine, Anjali. If you guys are here live and you'd like to get your reading, please let me know. My level 3 subscribers are always the first people who I see for the readings. We do have somebody in the queue who asked an excellent question, and I'm really excited to talk about it because I got a little bit of an opportunity to take a look at their question before we started. If you guys haven't seen it, now I have a QR code, getting fancy. You can actually scan that and you can pay for your reading. So $40 for one question, $65 if you have a question about synastry or an aspect with another person. I'm answering questions about natal aspects in your chart if there's something you want to know more about, or if you have a question about timing or about a transit or anything that you need to be aware of. I'm happy to answer that for you. Just checking on the chat here. Waiting for a couple people to check in. Hi Sam, nice to see you. Also, if you guys happen to be subscribers, you want to get another reading, I'm happy to do that for you. All you have to do is just either scan or hit the super chat, or you can go to PayPal and you can send the payment. But like I said, I've already got somebody who is in the queue, and that was for Joseph. Is Joseph here in the chat? Also, those of you guys who are not aware, when you send me a PayPal, I don't always have the same name on your chat for the YouTube as the PayPal. So just give me a heads up. Let me know if you have a different name or a funky name. It makes it easier for me to be able to know who is who. Thank you guys for joining me on a Friday night. How is the retrograde shadow for you guys? Is anybody feeling it? As soon as like Venus and the moon moved into Scorpio today's just been like crazy. I don't know if you guys are feeling it yet, but it's kind of like, I have a tendency to feel the transits probably like 2 or 3 days before it happens. I start feeling it build. And I knew that this week was going to be kind of crazy, but I feel like, I don't know if it's the shadow or the fact that Venus is changing signs. I don't know what it is, but the astrology is just getting wild. So those of you guys who have like a cardinal or fixed sun, moon, or rising, I'm seeing like a lot of like wildness for like Cancer or Capricorn risings with the Mercury square that's building, and equally fixed sun, moon, and rising. So Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio. You guys are also kind of coming into some of the squares. So if you have questions about that, let me know. There you are, Joseph. I really liked your question. So I'm going to go ahead and get into that because I don't see anybody else yet. So let's go ahead and get started because I have answers for you. So I'm going to read the question that Joseph sent me. His birthday is the 10th of November, 1990 at 3:55 a.m. in Royal Oak, Minnesota. Is that Minnesota or Michigan? I think that's Minnesota. Your question was, you have a yod with Neptune vertex in the 4th, Mars in the 9th, Jupiter in the 11th. Wondering if you could get my perspective. Thanks, that's such a cool question. So just wanted to say something, okay? This is just according to my astrology. I double and I triple checked it through my software, both on my iPad and also my software through my laptop. So I have two different softwares. I work with Ephemeris and I also work with Astro Gold. So just want to let you know, yes, you have a yod. Okay, Michigan. Yes, you have a yod. Okay, and I'll explain for those of you guys who aren't aware of what that is. However, your vertex is actually coming up as 20 degrees of Aries. I just want to let you know. So to me, when I read your question about the vertex being in the mix, vertex in the fourth, I don't have your vertex in the fourth. I have your north node in the fourth. I have Saturn and I have Neptune in the fourth. So I just wanted to let you know. Your IC is 9 degrees of Capricorn. But yes, there is a vertex. So those of you guys who are, vertex, there is a yod. So those of you guys who are asking, what is a yod? If you look at Joseph's chart, he's got Mars in Gemini and it's in his 9th house. So communicative, knowledgeable, definitely chatty, probably a little interested in either languages, travel, higher education, all of that stuff. And then you've got Jupiter in Leo in the 11th house. So Mars and Jupiter form a sextile to each other. Sextiles are harmonious, smooth, kind of Venusian energies. The more that you do the Mars, the more that the Jupiter expands. The more that you work on Jupiter, the more that Mars expands. So they're in positive, harmonious aspect to each other. So in order to have a yod, you need a sextile and an inconjunct or quincunx. So the focal point of the yod would actually be Neptune in your chart. Hopefully I did not lose you. So we've got Mars at 11 degrees of Gemini, Jupiter at 12 degrees of Leo, and Neptune at 13 degrees of Capricorn. And from my perspective, the focal point when you're dealing with a yod is actually going to be the point. So the finger, right? Or they say the finger of fate. So you've got the Neptune in the 4th house, and that is the focal point. So what's interesting about a yod is that you have a quincunx, right? To both of these aspects, Neptune quincunx Mars, Neptune quincunx Jupiter. And a quincunx is between a trine and an opposition. It's an uncomfortable aspect that's trying to reconcile with other planets. So Neptune in the 4th, which is on one hand, it can be like a parent that might have felt absent, or a feeling of longing for a different home, or a feeling of feeling kind of like disconnected, right? Like Neptune definitely deals a lot with like people who may feel lost or outside of something, right? So especially Neptune and Saturn in the 4th, you're talking to somebody who has those same aspects in the same sign. And I'm also a Libra rising, so I get it. So off the bat, to me, and this is just the traditional astrology speaking, I'm going to break it down a little bit more, but because Neptune is the ruler of your 6th, okay? So Neptune being also like disillusionment or things that dissolve. It can talk about issues with addiction, or it can talk about, like I said, not feeling home or not feeling home within the family or within the family unit and searching or seeking for that elsewhere. They also say that if you have your 6th house ruler conjunct Saturn, it's karmic, and you have it. It's a separating aspect. It's about, 8 degrees away. But I look at that as, quite honestly, and this was like so timely because I was just doing some research about it literally this morning. So when your question came in, I kind of chuckled. That certain family members can literally be enemies. People don't realize this, that enemies or people who you have issues with, or people who you need to kind of get free from or need to separate from, can actually fall within the 6th house. So now it's not in the 6th house, it's in the 4th, but it's conjunct Saturn. So I look at this and I kind of go, something about Neptune creating that yod to Mars, the ruler of your 7th house of relationships, and Jupiter, the ruler of your 3rd house, makes me feel like through that separation or issues with the family, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, people who have had health issues even, it's meant to kind of push you out and make you very uncomfortable with your inner world or with your home base or with where you were even born. So you push into the Mars and the Jupiter. What I love is that, Mars being in the 9th house can be an indication that through leaving home, moving away from home, meeting a partner that lives somewhere else, going to school, meeting them on vacation, or meeting them when you're, going to college somewhere, or taking a course of studies, right? And equally, that sextile to Jupiter, Jupiter quincunx or in conjuncture Neptune, it's trying to reconcile too. So it's like there's a lot of you trying to talk to family about things, they're not getting it. Trying to teach family, they're not getting it. You may have friends that have similar issues with their upbringing or with some of their parents. So I could also see like that Jupiter in the 11th creating the sextile to your Mars is being able to talk about it with other people who get and understand that sense of like, okay, there's the family that you're born into, and then there's the family that you create. So I look at this and I kind of go, your friends can represent that group of people who come in that pull you out of that sense of feeling stuck or feeling stuck in the family patterns or the emotional patterns or something of that nature. So whenever you're dealing with a yod, you know, the focal point is like the conundrum of like, okay, well, how do I get out of this? So it has to be reconciled with. So one thing I would say that's interesting to me is you want to reflect on what's been happening since your Saturn's return. Okay, so think back of like 2017, 2018, 2019, when Saturn was going through there, it was conjunct Neptune and it was actually forming a Saturn yod, right, to Mars and to Jupiter. So something happened where it was like there was this break where you were like, I can't keep replaying the same pattern. I can't stay in the same place. I'm not going to repeat my family history. There's something that needs to change. So I'm wondering if you had that aha moment. Equally, the North Node has recently activated your Mars, so it tells me that you may be seeking higher knowledge, looking for a mentor, writing, trying to publish, taking courses, learning something, trying to make friends with people in other places, right? So between, you know, both now your Saturn return is over, yay! I think you're really going to start to get the fruit of that when Saturn leaves your 4th house. So when Saturn begins to really move in fully into your 12th and it starts forming a trine again with your Mars and an opposition with your Jupiter. Something about like the beginning of next year is when all of this kind of starts to open. But you have to always reconcile and deal with that Neptune. So long story short, when dealing with family, sick family members, issues with addiction, people who aren't there for you, family members who fall short, this feeling of where is my family, where is my home, and feeling lost, you want to get outside of yourself, okay? And you want to get out of that and you want to go more into your Mars, which will actually be, I think, the family maybe that you create with your future partner. And equally also the friends that you're going to end up kind of bringing in who become your family. It's a difficult placement to have, both Neptune and Saturn in the 4th. That can sometimes be like an indication, like I said, of like addiction in the family or an absent parent or something like that. And so it'll almost kind of keep bringing you back to this feeling of being alone until you go and seek a family within yourself or a home within yourself, or you go and choose to build your own unique kind of idea of what family may be. It's not a bad yod to have. I look at your chart and I'm like, oh my God, you're like the male version of me. Your chart looks just like mine. I'm pretty sure I feel like I've looked at your chart before, so I don't know if I've answered a question for you before, but that stellium of planets that you have in Scorpio sitting in your 2nd house, just buckle up, right? Like if you're somebody who's learning about astrology or you're learning more about the aspects, obviously if you're asking questions about yods, you seem to kind of be doing a lot of like pulling apart and like dissecting your astrology, but it's a really important time to either possibly invest in a reading, whether it's with me or somebody else, because you do have Saturn coming into a square with all of your planets in Scorpio next year in your 5th house. And you do have Uranus coming into opposition with all these planets in the 2nd house, which is going to be teaching you that even though I get it, like you're kind of like this like soul survivor, you're like, I take care of myself, I do it myself, I work hard for myself, I provide for myself. Part of what's going to start happening in this next year is that there are going to be things that happen completely out of your control that's going to take you out of your comfort zone. And this will be because of Saturn in your 5th. It's trying to open up your heart, and it's also trying to get you to think more about your love life, dating, dealing with your inner child stuff, dealing with things that you haven't sorted out from childhood. And then you've got Uranus on the other end of that. That's going to be just doing dances in opposition to all of your Scorpio planets for about 2 years. So that's a huge shift. Like that's in a way, you know, conjunctions power you up. So even though your Saturn return probably was kind of brutal because Pluto was in there too, squares force you to act. Okay, so there's been a lot of like digging and uprooting all of these emotions and trying to get you to like detach from where you've been living or old emotional behaviors or not opening up or not considering other people. in preparation for Saturn coming into a square with your Sun, Pluto, Venus, also in preparation for Uranus coming into that opposition. And it's throwing you into something where you're going to have to deal with 8th house topics: death, transformation, joint resources. 5th house is true love. 5th house is also investments. 5th house is also children. And then you've got the 8th house, which is other people. So buckle up, because to me, this seems a lot of like dealing with like, okay, somebody goes, but somebody comes in, or needing to learn to be okay leaning on other people emotionally or psychologically, that the next 2 years you need to be working with somebody who can help you with this, whether this is like spiritually, astrologically, psychologically. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to start happening that are going to feel like they're out of your control. So just a heads up, so you're aware. You've done most of the work already though, now that you've gone through the Saturn conjunction to your Neptune. So it's the clearing out. So it's very interesting to look at your chart. But that Neptune tells me that you may have an understanding for other people who are lost, or you may have an understanding for other people who have had addiction or who had depression. You may find that you're a caretaker also of animals. That's usually what the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is in the 4th, is that nurturing pets or nurturing animals or nurturing older people or nurturing sick people. So hopefully that's helpful. I know that that was like a little bit all over the place, but my eyes got really big when I look at some of the grand fixed cross that you're going to have, man, because it's also going to be Saturn in opposition to your moon. So grand fixed cross is what you're coming into. And just from one person who's going through some of the same aspects, because my South Node is at 21 degrees of Leo, just giving you a heads up, I'm already starting to feel this energy. Next year is going to be about not dealing with the physical plane. It's not about money. It's not about what you have. It's not about investments. It's not about what control over physical things you have. It's going to be about the metaphysical world, and it's going to be about what you can't see and what triggers you psychologically. So you need a really strong spiritual practice. I would really recommend looking into Kundalini yoga or any like Shakti work or anything like that. Equally, I would say it's a really good time to start learning about minimalism, purging, detoxifying, clearing out, all of these things. So that way you handle the Uranian energy better. And the good news is that the 8th house is about receiving, even if it's through death and transformation. It's about receiving and you having a completely different perspective of your values, okay? Seriously consider investing in a reading, because I think it would be really helpful for you. You're very welcome. Okay, that was a fun one to kick off the night with. How's everybody else in the chat doing? Nice to see everybody. We are doing readings. We're doing live readings. So those of you guys who are here, if you are 3rd tier, I am happy to answer one of your questions. Looks like Anjali's here. Hey, Anjali, let me know if you want your question or if you would rather wait. Equally, if anybody wants to get a reading, check out my QR code. You can purchase one question for 40 or 65 for Synastry. And I will get started on the next person. Hey, Emma, it's nice to see you. Got a couple people in here of my regulars. Oh no, Sam, feel better. A lunar return reading. Sure, Anjali, give me your info. I'll plug it in. Hey, Phoenix. Just let me know. Okay. Let me know your info and I will plug that in. First, your birth information and then the city where your lunar return is happening. Those of you guys who aren't aware, your lunar return, similar to your solar return, your solar return being your birthday chart, we kind of make predictions for the year. The lunar return is what to expect for the next month. The last one was so on point. Lots of cleaning and housework, huh? Yeah, Sam, check out... I would say check out the Bitcoin video that I did with my fiance. If you go and you check out his channel, he talks a lot about like where he's investing and where he's putting money and what's happening. And there's links in that as well. Hey, Kristen. Thanks, Anjali. Let's get that in. 317.87. Okay, and that was at 9:53 a.m. And that was in Miami. And then we're going to do the lunar return. That just passed. And that is for Chicago. Thanks, Gail. Appreciate your generosity. I will be with you momentarily. Okay, Anjali, let's take a look. Lunar return, September 9th, 2021. So it was yesterday. Ooh, 8 degrees Scorpio rising. Ooh, that's kind of spooky. It's a spooky rising degree. Very resurrection. Hey, Brittany, the crypto video is out. It's on my channel. Check it out. We're going to probably be doing more, but it's definitely out. And I'll be doing more future financial predictions for you guys. Okay, so this is a chart that's got a Scorpio rising. Obviously, we're going to look at the moon, and we're also going to look at the ruler, which would be Mars or Pluto. So two things. One is the moon is sitting in the 12th house in Libra. So it tells me that there is some sense of like needing more rest, or I see the 12th house as like a natural ending. So there can also be some sense of like letting certain things come to an end, releasing something, like letting something like shift, especially pertaining to relationships, right? It's at a 21, so it's like about anxiety revolving around relationships or balance with relationships. I would wonder what's happening with relationships this month. Thankfully, the moon is in a trine to Jupiter. It's also in a trine to the vertex in the 8th. So I'm wondering, like, what's the deal? Like, what's going on here? Like, is there a natural shift happening with the relationship? Is there a lot more spending time in bed with another person because you've got Moon and Venus situated in the 12th? Let me know. That could definitely be something that's happening. I also kind of wonder with the moon quincunx Neptune, there can be like a lot of just relationships on your mind and like questioning like where something is going, or whether or not you're going to see somebody, or whether or not they're going to come through emotionally. But all in all, like the moon trine Jupiter, it's not a bad aspect. I don't see that being negative. I feel like now maybe you feel like your house is like more so relationship ready. That's possible. You might feel happier or like more emotionally evolved, but the moon in the 12th house needs privacy, and it can also be kind of like needy, right? Now Mars, on the other hand, Mars is in Virgo, it's in the 11th house, and it's in a trine to Pluto. So that also tells me that, you know, when you have both of the chart rulers in harmonious aspects to each other, I will look at Mars and Pluto. There can be a sense of like having more phone calls, hearing from people more, friends wanting you to go and hang out and do things more. I could feel like there can be opportunities also because Mars is the ruler of the 6th and it's in a harmonious aspect to Pluto, that friends are calling you and asking you, do you want to go out? Do you want to go for walks? Do you want to go and get together? Do you want to eat lunch? Do you want to do something, right? But fitness, group fitness can be a theme, going out and like working out with friends, being more communicative, talking, phone calls. It's very busy, right? The one thing that I'm like also looking at is the fact that you've got the sun in the 10th house and it's in opposition to Neptune, or it's building into an opposition with Neptune. This particular lunation, I don't know what it is about the new moon that we just had and the full moon that's coming, but I feel like this 2-week period is like where everything kind of turns. So usually when the sun is in the 10th house, especially when it's in Virgo, it's busy. So it's like, I'm busy, I've got stuff going on, I'm working, I've got a lot that I need to sift through. So you may notice that both either through your social life or through what's going on with your professional life, there can be a lot of like not always feeling like there's time to connect with a partner, or if you are connecting with a partner, you're seeing them in the evenings, or you're talking to them in the evenings, or you're seeing them late at night, or they're coming over later in the evening. That's the other way that I look at it. That Mars trine Pluto, though, also makes me wonder, did anybody ask you, it's a busy month, I'll be outside doing activities, for instance, my bike, yeah, you're busy working tax season. Is there, or has there been anybody who's brought anything up revolving around talking to you about going on a road trip? Anything like that? Mars trine Pluto can be a friend asking you if you want to like plan a trip and get away. It can be later in the year. Equally, Mars trine Pluto can be like, I'm working on my computer a lot, I'm on my phone a lot, I need to update my website, I'm responding to a lot of emails, I'm having to schedule a lot of appointments. Yeah, I would just say with the moon and Venus in the 12th house, like make time for romantic connections in the evening. And also because the moon is in Libra and it's so close to Venus, because the next aspect actually it's going to make will be a square to Pluto and then a conjunction to Venus. So it's like, I can't text you all day, I'm busy, but I have time to get on FaceTime and talk to you, or you can come over, you know, Friday night or whatever. Try to make that time. That's one thing that I would say. And then on the flip side, you said it's your natal Pluto. Your natal Pluto is at 8 degrees. So if that's the case, then Pluto sits on your ascendant. So it's a really great month to be dealing with taxes. 8 and Scorpio is like a double Scorpio energy, but it's like sensing things really deep, looking into details, reading people's body language, catching imperfections in finances, finding loopholes. Like, you know, you're going to be like laser focused on money and making money. Yeah, just today about a road trip. Yeah. So somebody's supposed to talk to you about going on a road trip. And I say that because Mars is in a trine to Jupiter. Excuse me, Mars is in a trine to Pluto. And Mars in your 11th house of friendships is like, hey, let's plan something. So I would say that to me seems like it's a pretty smooth thing to do. I think that's going to be something that's going to happen. Okay, it's at 9. But yeah, the taxes. So because it's on your ascendant, you will come across a little bit more intense than usual. You may be transforming something about your body. You're definitely going to be a little bit more like sexy and a little bit more seductive or attracting or alluring this month. And you might find that you're opting for like darker tones, darker makeup, you know, darker clothes. Like it's not just because it's fall, like there's going to be a real significant shift in just your appearance. Lunar returns can be so accurate. It's so crazy how accurate they can be. I love looking at my lunar return every month because it's like bang on. But I would definitely say I was gonna go to plan to get tan. So you're getting your tan off. So you're meaning like, are you getting rid of a spray tan? You're just, you know, Scorpio, Pluto on your ascendant. You're just gonna be, you can be a little bit like lighter, a little bit spookier. They say that when anything's at an 8, it's got a Scorpio degree. So you look fairer, but you have darker features. You can tan there, that's fine, especially if but you may not notice the tan is what I'm getting at. You may not notice it. No matter how much you're doing it this month, you may not notice it. And having that Pluto on your ascendant, one thing I would say is that if you are trying to get a tan, and anybody would tell you this, it's not just for me because I read astrology, but if you are trying to get a tan this month, don't be going ham in the tanning salon, like trying to do something every day, because Pluto on your ascendant tells me that if you're doing that, there can actually be damage that you can do from radiation to your body, slow and steady. Okay. So, and even if you were to do that, I feel confident in telling you, you may still look at yourself by the end of the month and go, it's not dark enough. You want to do something when you have a positive aspect, or you have like a Leo rising or something like that. And naturally it wants you to work with like darker colors, not necessarily your tan. I can see that in a Scorpio rising. Sure, Scorpio risings can sometimes have a tendency to opt to be darker, but I don't know if you're going to reach it, and just try not to do it too fast. That's the one thing I would tell you. Put it on your ascendant. Okay, it's good for sexy time. It's good for lots of sexy pictures, being able to, like, you know, bring some mans in. But definitely, other than that, I would say just make time, and it's a money making month. Plan that road trip. That looks like it's going to be fun. Hopefully that's helpful. We've got Amber in the queue. You're very welcome, Anjali. Amber's in the queue. So let's see what her question is. Yeah, Sam, I can do that. I just have you down already for this month. So if you want to get a question, we can do that. Or if you want to book a session specifically on what's best to invest in, we can do that too. Either or. So let me pull up Amber. All right, Amber, are you around? I assume you are. Let me put your info in. 62682. 11:28 p.m. And that was in Lafayette. So June 26, 82. And she said, what stands out in my chart for the next 6 months? Good question. All right, so let's take a look here. Oh, you know what? This is a lunar return. My bad. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right, Amber, I've got you as a Pisces rising, and looks like your sun is in Cancer and your moon is in Virgo. Tell me, Amber, how are things going with Mars on your moon? Mars has been on your moon in your 7th house. What's going on? You feel like people are coming at you, or are you going back with somebody who's sexy? What's the deal with that? That's always a fun transit when Mars is on your moon in your 7th house. It can definitely be good for ramping up relationships. Also, equally, you're coming into your Mars return. So interesting energy that's going to be happening because you've got a number of planets that are building between your 7th house of partnership and into your 8th house, which deals with other people, resources. There's 2 big things. One is you're born in 1982. So your Pluto sits at 24 degrees of Libra. Okay, you feel normal now. Wait till it happens when you have your Mars return. What's getting ready to happen here is a couple things. One is, Mercury will actually station, because Mercury is getting ready to go retrograde. Mercury is going to station right around your Pluto. I think it's like right around 24, 25 degrees. To me, that seems pretty prominent. So what is Mercury? It's the ruler of your 7th house of relationships. Your 7th house is Virgo, so it can represent your relationships with coworkers, your relationships with people professionally, your romantic relationships. And when Mercury stations like right on top of your Pluto, it tells me that you're getting ready to deal with some intense situation involving somebody else. Now, the 8th house can be money people owe you, things you need to pay off. It can represent transformation. Being that Mercury is going to conjunct, Pluto, it tells me that you may have somebody who comes forward and needs to have like an important conversation with you that you did not see coming, and it can be kind of intense. Equally, because this is going to be in a square to transit Pluto, you are in the midst of your Pluto square Pluto. I would really recommend learning up on that. Basically, when Pluto squares Pluto, it happens like when you're in your it's sometime between your late 30s and like I think 42. And it's about reassessing, and it's about detoxing and purging and getting rid of things. If you want me to keep it real, I look at Pluto in your 11th house of friendships squaring your natal Pluto in the 8th, and it tells me that there's either something going on where you have friends that you need to start sorting and sifting and cutting out and getting rid of because they may be toxic, and you may not realize it until this transit. Equally, it can be that some of your friends are having relationship issues or partnership issues, and they're dumping on you and they're projecting that on you, and you're absorbing some of that. It can just be about issues with friends in general, okay? One thing I would also say is there can be a situation where a friend is going through some issues in a relationship because it's the ruler of your 7th, and they come to you and they talk to you about it, and it can be a male person who's like talking to you about issues in their relationship, and then it kind of gets a little kind of dicey between you and that person because they're in the midst of going through something, and then they're trying to come forward and they're trying to work with you, if that's making sense, okay? So be mindful of that. Thank you. Hi. One other thing I would say is that, this is a part, and I'm going to do videos on this. I keep talking about this. I feel like a broken record, but especially people who have planets, 22, 23 to like 27 degrees of the cardinal signs. October and December, January are going to be big times because in a way, this Mercury retrograde is trying to sort something out before it becomes a bigger problem down the line. Okay. So watch out for people who are coming to you trying to talk to you about the relationship issues. That's going to be a big thing in October. This is also a good time to really get a hold of like any of your spending stuff. If you need to pay something off, Go and look through all of your subscriptions. If there's something going on with your subscriptions and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much money I'm spending on these things or how much money I owe to my credit cards. It's like about getting a hold of a situation involving spending. And it's all to preemptively prevent something happening in the new year. And I look at, Venus going retrograde, ruler of your 8th, where there can be a situation where if you have like this weird situationship where you're there for somebody who's going through some kind of dramatic situation, it could play out for several months. You could get to the Venus retrograde and then you're in a situation where you're like, what's going on? Now you're back with this person. You've developed feelings. Like, just be careful is the one thing that I would say. And that really takes you to about January. Equally, then you're going to have some other stuff that's going to be going on. And that's going to be when like Mars and Venus all come together and they square off. And that's going to be happening for you in February. So it's like, if you're somebody who is single or you are dating or you're trying to meet someone, there is a need to really clearly define the difference between a friendship and a romantic relationship, okay? Or a friendship or something that's going on with like an interest, like, or if you're starting to date somebody, introducing them to some of your friends and having your friends meet them and how your friends think and whether or not your friends like that person. And it's not all scary. Actually, these trines from all these placements in Capricorn, they all trine your moon in your 7th. So it's like a time to like really integrate more of your relationships with your friendships, or it can be a time when you're establishing friendships with people through work and you're kind of building more on your friends and you're kind of like meeting more people and you're feeling kind of more socially acclimated. So it doesn't all have to be romantic, but certainly Libra does have more of like a romantic tinge. The other thing I would say is that you are in the midst of getting ready to have the North Node conjunct your natal Venus in the 3rd. So it's about how you communicate and express love, how you learn to communicate and express and be vulnerable. It can also be that you start making a decision about money that you want to put into taking a course or a lesson, money that you want to put into going on a trip, or if you're going to make an investment into a vehicle, or if you're deciding if it makes sense to pay a vehicle off or to get something new, or looking at a budget and what a budget would be for travel or for transportation means. So that's also kind of happening for you right at the end of the year in December going into January. So I kind of feel like there's a sense of like reevaluating your 8th house, which is your relationship with other people, your debt, your taxes, your finances, your budget. And it's a lot of like learning to ask for more and reevaluating what your goals are. Sometimes I've seen, especially with Venus in the 3rd, two things is, and in Gemini, somebody can literally say to you, like, I'm in love with you, right? Like they could be like, I'm in love with you. And you're like, what? I had no idea. 2 is that it could also be that you meet someone who is entangled in another relationship and you're realizing that there's feelings there, but you're like, oh, I gotta wait until you like sort that out. Being that your Venus is at a 1, it's gonna keep bringing up the fact that it's like you gotta love yourself more, okay? So be really clear with like all of those like weird kind of situationships and like really be clear with like defining what the dynamic is. So you're not finding yourself in a situation where you're like, there's a love triangle going on at the beginning of the year, and just communicate. Thankfully, you are coming out of your Pluto square pretty soon. Thankfully also, Jupiter is in a trine to your Pluto right now. So it's trining, getting ready to come back onto your ascendant. So the truth is that the future looks bright for you. Having Jupiter on your ascendant in this next year is really great because it makes you more optimistic, more open-minded, gives you new opportunities for travel, especially because it's your 10th house ruler. It can be traveling for work. It can also be just you approaching life in a different way and just feeling like really sparkly. On the flip side, Jupiter on your ascendant, if you're not careful, you can put on weight because Jupiter is the biggest planet. But I would just say I'm not so concerned about that. I'm more concerned about when Jupiter fully moves into Pisces, it comes into conjunction with Neptune and it squares your natal Neptune. So there can be situations in March of next year where there's a lot of you asking yourself like, do I still resonate with what I'm doing for a living? Do I still enjoy this? Do I want to still live here? Do I want to live somewhere else? And Jupiter will start trining the South Node in your 9th. So it's got me thinking that you either want to travel somewhere else or, move somewhere else, or that you're playing around with the idea of like going into like a new profession maybe. Just an idea. I love that you have Venus in opposition to Uranus. Definitely love comes in and out of your life very quickly. It's like like love at first sight, or that like people just like suddenly come and suddenly go. And so there's going to be a little bit of that happening with Jupiter on your ascendant, and it's going to keep reminding you that you're in the driver's seat. Don't get jerked around by other people. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay, let's move on to these people that I have here. Thank you for being patient, Gail. Let's put in Gail's info. February 28th, 1977. Gail, do you have the time for me, my dear? Let me know. I need the time. But I'm going to start getting that in right now. Hey, Lucas. February 28th. And that was in Weston, West Virginia. Thanks, Gail. 4:22 p.m. People were worried about you, Lucas. Gail, do you have anything in particular that you have questions about? Holy cow, look at what's going on in your chart. Leo rising, Sun in Pisces in the 8th, and you've got Mars and Mercury in your 7th. Are you one of those Leo risings who feels like there's just a lot of stuff going on? Like a lot of like people coming at you, or just like a lot of like you having to like kind of take a step back? People seem a little much with this chart right now. Let's see. Let me know. So I'm just going to start talking to you about what I see. So the big thing is that I'll say is, so you're a Leo sun and you're a Leo rising and your sun is in Pisces in the 8th house. You've got Saturn in your 6th right now. Yes, ma'am. Okay, next 6 months, please. Okay, cool. Yeah, so for Leo risings in general, I mean, right now, a couple things. You're in your Saturn opposition. So I notice in your chart you have Saturn and Leo in the 12th. And Saturn traditionally rules Capricorn, which is your 6th house. So you can see things like issues with coworkers, problems going on with your schedule, digestive issues, issues with your health, especially because you have Mars in your 6th house. When Saturn comes into conjunction with Mars, you can see that there is need for rest, recuperation, like healing. Like there's something like that going on. Like the other thing I would say is that, you know, this is almost like you're getting a break right now. Usually when Saturn opposes Saturn and it squares Uranus in the 10th, there's like a break in your schedule, or there's some kind of break at work, or there's some kind of change going on. Equally, because Aquarius is your 7th house, sometimes that can be a change in your status in the world. So it's like, I used to work here, now I work there. I used to be married, now I'm single. Is there anything like that going on? So yeah, you got a lot. I mean, it's, you know, transit Saturn, square Uranus in your 4th, transit Saturn opposed Saturn, transit Saturn, square Uranus in your 10th. What this is doing is it's making you change the way that you respond to other people. And on one hand, Saturn in the 12th likes to like hide out. On the flip side, when you have Saturn going through the 6th, it says you can't hide out, you need to deal with things. Especially Saturn in Aquarius is like what's best for other people. So on the flip side, it can be that you're like, okay, I'm wanting to take a step back, and other people are kind of reaching forward saying that they need your assistance, they need your help. The other thing that I would tell you is that this energy is not going to calm down. This is going to keep going. I had to shut down my daycare for 25 days because of COVID. Yeah. So literally shutting down even though you have a service, 6th house. So this energy will intensify. Okay. And it's going to intensify right around November 2021 when planets all start to ingress into Scorpio. and they oppose Uranus, square Saturn, and square transit Saturn. I'm just being honest with you. It's going to happen like the first 2 weeks of November. To me, also, that's an impending eclipse. So there's an eclipse building in your 10th house. So it tells me on one hand, because it involves the North Node, and the North Node is coming into conjunction with your Jupiter, that it is going to allow you to, I think, bring kids back, into your space, but somehow you may need to charge more, you may need to be expanding in the new year, there's something like this that's going to happen, and you may have to raise your rates or your fees because of the retrograde that's going to happen in your 6th, where it's like, maybe you have to pay your staff more, maybe you need to make sure they get benefits, maybe there needs to be increased cleaning, or there's new government regulation or expectations, so you're going to have to possibly change your prices. It's not a bad place to be in by the time you get to about February, March of 2022, because all these planets in Capricorn are building into a trine with your Jupiter. Equally, I could see that being a situation where other companies that are competitive may shut down, you may actually be the last man standing, because North Node on your Jupiter is like, we're going big, we're expanding. But in Taurus, it's we need more land, we need more money, we need more support. So I'm wondering like what's going on with that right now. The other thing I would say is before we even get to the new year, similar to what I was just talking about, there is a Mercury retrograde where Mercury is stationing retrograde about 25 degrees of Libra. That is your North Node in the 3rd. And that deals with communications, documents. So you're going to have Mercury going retrograde back and forth in opposition to your natal Venus. So do you need to get further certification? Do you need to make a change with a car or a vehicle? Do you need to update documents? Do you need to have parents sign new documents? Is there something like this going on? If this were me, if you're in the beginning phases of thinking about making some of these changes, I would start getting the documents ready now, while the Mercury retrograde is happening and while Mercury is in a trine to Jupiter, so you can start letting people know. On the flip side, if you're in a position where you feel like, we could expand if we had more money, or it would be easier if I had a partnership, you could be thinking about bringing a partnership on, because even though these squares suck, I'm going to keep telling everybody, the whole purpose is to keep looking to Jupiter. So I look at Jupiter, ruler of your 5th house, in the 7th, where you're going to have kids that are going to need daycare. That's not going to be an issue. You're going to have people who want to take their kids to businesses. The challenge that I see here is who is supporting you. Your 7th house is either your business partner, your friends, a romantic partner. You need more support, basically, is what I'm getting at. And there can be some difficult conversations that you either need to have with the staff or some difficult conversations that you need to have with a partnership of some kind, but those conversations need to be had. Trust me on this. Because next year, when Saturn comes into conjunction with your Mars, I feel like this is you getting to a point where you either want to start learning new trades, or there's something new that you want to take courses for, or there's something new that you want to be working on. And you're going to see a situation where you're going to be like, I don't want to be running around working all the time. Like, I want to have this fully functional so I can be doing other things. Because your chart talks about getting to a point where you would like to either be traveling more or doing more, like next summer. Waiting on government support for childcare. Yes, I have to take more classes. Okay, it's going to happen. Don't worry, it's going to happen. But I think that if you have to raise your prices, you have to raise your prices. To me, it looks like you're going to be making more money come April, May, June of next year. So while other businesses start to kind of dwindle or have issues or shut down, I want you to think about what you can be doing to improve, your current business. And also it's about asking people for help. Probably when Venus goes retrograde and it trines your Jupiter, I'm guessing somewhere between like the end of December and the beginning of February is when you're going to get more support. Okay, just kind of looking at the trines, because I'm looking at when it makes aspects both to your Jupiter in the 10th house and sextiles to Neptune. So help is on the way. It's coming. Waiting on the government, I guess it's 100% single, so it has to be business. So do you have a business partnership? Have you considered bringing somebody in to help you? Have you considered getting an assistant? The ruler of the 7th house is Uranus, and it's located in the 4th. Anything like that? Hello, Phoenix. Welcome to level 3. Thank you very much. I have to tell you, that eclipse that's coming for you, it'll be around November 19th. Let's pull this up. right around here. That's going to be an eclipse that is going to be closely conjunct your Jupiter, which is going to be an expansion. So there's an expansion coming. But I'm wondering, do you have to put money into the business? Is there something like that? Are you considering getting a second location? You know, do you need to actually go and do stuff physically within the space? Like, do you need to go and like build stuff outside? I know that sounds weird. You have an assistant, okay. Just if you have new documents or paperwork, especially if it's health related, I know this, like, I'm not a doctor. I need to tell everybody this, I'm not a doctor, but when I look at the squares from the third house ruled by Venus, it's in opposition to your natal Venus and square Pluto. So it tells me that there's new regulations that are coming, or there may be new health standards or something else that you need to put out there, or like waivers or things that you need to have people sign. Maybe a good idea to start getting that going now, if that's something that you have to do. It's gonna be something government related, because it's in a square to Pluto in your 6th. So it's about health and cleanliness and what you're doing and whether or not you're doing everything to code, and you might have to buy products to really clean things, and you might require people to, you know, have to do more within the business. But I think it's going to be fine. Overall, though, I got to tell you, you know, part of your Uranus opposition is trying to pull you out of your 4th house and throw you into your 10th house. So it's all about career stuff, which is kind of wild. I love talking to people who have Uranus in the 4th. I have that too. So it's usually a really chaotic kind of like inner world, but then when Uranus goes into your 10th, it's like a chaotic outer world, and suddenly you have to make all these changes in your career. But in my opinion, when you come out of some of these squares, you know, Saturn is moving into your 7th house. So it's pushing you more in the direction of being like, hey, you know, start dating again, start connecting with other people again, go meet somebody, get out of the house. I mean, it's looking really good for you, like romantically. You didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyway. From about like mid-January all the way up through April, it's putting all of this energy into needing somebody to help support you romantically, friendship-wise, maybe even business-wise, because the square is to your 10th house. One thing that you don't realize is that through the changes that you end up making at work, you could meet somebody. Equally, because of the expansion that's happening at work, you might consider taking on somebody who can help you. If you're wanting another location, I would say I would wait unless you've got something that's already like in the queue. Look for that more like December through May. Like, wait until some of this energy settles down, because I don't feel good about you trying to find something while there's a square to Pluto. I feel like putting together or developing a new space can definitely be something that's like stronger for you, like end of February going into March, maybe May, June. So COVID is definitely doing that to childcare. Just take your time, because whatever you're doing, especially if you have to make all of these changes, to me, it seems like there's going to be some support. So there may be some tax breaks, there may be some incentive for you to be doing more with health and wellness and like really ensuring the place is like up to code. Like they may have some kind of like, you know, tax reimbursement. I don't know, but something like that kind of comes up. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Gail. Sending you lots of good positive vibes. Thank you for taking care of all those little ones. It has been a stressful year or so. Okay, we have got Phoenix, who is a member, and don't worry, Miss Fogle, I got you too. Phoenix, I will be with you shortly. Let me talk to the birthday girl, and then I will be looking at your chart. Okay. Hey girl, hey! Your birthday is tomorrow, 9/11/74. Let's take a look and see what's going on. Can everybody please wish her a happy birthday? 9:15 in Detroit. So I look at where you were born, AM, even though you may not live there anymore. Oops. And let's make this equal. So this is one of my secret sauces. Don't steal my magic, but this is how I do my solar returns. So she was born in Detroit, September 11th, 1974. So we're going to look at her chart for a solar return from Detroit. And my secret trick is make it equal. Even though I'm a Placidus girl, I always make it equal. It's so accurate. If you're like super into astrology, go back in time, look at your solar returns the last couple of years from your birthplace. It's scary, scary accurate. Here we go, here we go. Miss Fogle. Yes, well, actually, if you want to get technical, your birthday is today, so happy birthday. Your solar return is based off of when the sun comes back to the degree that it was when you were born. So technically, you had your birthday a couple of hours ago at 6:30 p.m. Happy birthday. So this gives you an Aquarius rising, a sun in Virgo. It's always going to be sun in Virgo because it's your solar return, and your moon is in Scorpio. So this is a chart that is ruled by Uranus. And what do we have to say about that? Well, you've got Uranus closely conjunct your IC or your fourth house. So you tell me you're living in Vegas, I say you're moving. You are going to be moving very soon, or there is going to be some kind of a change going on within your home. Uranus is the great awakener, so it creates unexpected shifts and changes. So when Uranus is closely conjunct your IC, it is both in a hard angle to your ascendant and your descendant. Uranus in Taurus is about a change in values, sometimes land or investment. So I look at Uranus being there and I wonder, are you wanting to move something around in your place? Do you want to renovate something? Are you trying to buy a place? Are you trying to buy a second place? Are you thinking about no longer renting and you want to buy? Do you want to get a new car? Technically, it's in your third house. So the change or the transformation can be about an investment into vehicles. It can be buying yourself a new phone, a new laptop, something like that can be happening. But traditionally, when Uranus is conjunct the IC, it's like, watch what happens when the sun gets into Taurus. Specifically, let's say like it's 14 degrees. So look at the first 10 days of May. This is just my future predictions, where there can be a change. It can also be that, you know, a sibling or a cousin or somebody comes to stay with you, or maybe they are going to be visiting you, or they're going to drive out to see you right around that time. But third house is traditionally siblings, close people, changes, and it can also deal with movement because it's so close to the IC. So be mindful of that. 2 is that you also have Uranus that is in a trine to your sun. So it's basically saying, I'm up for changes this year. An 8th house sun is the need to transform. Yep, you want to move. Okay, so April, May seems to be that magical time. Uranus can be a situation where you may not necessarily sell. You may opt to rent. Or you might go, I want to move around a little bit and feel it out, or I want to drive around to different cities or different areas and feel it out before I physically move. So something like that's going to happen. And I would just say, just really hear me on this, because I see the anxiousness and like, I want to change. And you're going to be feeling this as early as Scorpio season, because this moon in Scorpio, it's in opposition to Uranus. I get the impression that it is possible you could meet somebody in another city, which could preemptively spark you wanting to move. So you might meet somebody and go like, I'll come and visit you. Because the sun, which is in a trine to Uranus, is the ruler of the 7th house. So you're not only willing to change where you're living, but you're willing to change something about your relationships. Okay, so there's something like this that's going on. Looking to make changes in your relationships. And 3, we also see that the moon is in a square to Saturn. So moon, ruler of the 6th house of work, daily routine, sometimes pets, and it's in a square to Saturn. So one thing I would say to you is you really want to pay attention to your diet, your digestion. To me, it seems like there's going to be some changes, some decluttering, some purging, being that the moon can often rule our emotions. It's like letting go of old emotions, like breaking all of that down and getting to a place where you're making a decision about like just kind of like letting go of like blocked thinking, like something like that, and equally decluttering your place. That's the other way that I see it. In this also, you have Mars, which is in a trine to Pluto. So Mars in the 8th house. I look at all these planets in the 8th house and it's like, This is a very 8th house year. Traditionally, don't you usually have all this Virgo in your 12th house? I'm trying to remember, like I don't always remember everybody's charts, but I feel like usually a lot of this stuff is in your 12th. So when your 12th house moves to the 8th house, it's like a lot of like releasing, renewal, and just a complete shift. This somebody keeps coming in up in a reading, and I'm so over single life, but I haven't met him yet. Don't worry, he's coming. When your 7th house lord moves into the 8th, it's somebody who comes in that changes the way that you look at relationships. And also equally, it can be somebody who is like really supportive, even financially. Like 8th house years are years where you deal with, you know, death, sex, taxes, but really it's also like bringing people in who empower you. So it's definitely going to be a year where that's going to change. I would say look for those changes to really come about most, especially in terms of romance. I see that kind of being like April through your birthday of next year. Jupiter on your sun, it has you super positive, happy, optimistic, ready to go, ready to make these changes. I love that Jupiter quincunx is your sun. So that also tells me that it's like pushing you out of your comfort zone. And I want you to get into the habit this year of like when you go places, I want you to say hi to people. Hi, how's your day going? Nice. Oh, beautiful day. Like get out of the 8th house because it wants you to shine and it wants you to be seen. And it's trying to push you to get more into like the state of mind of just like interacting with people more. So that way, like, you know, because people want to see you. It's going to be hard not to be seen with Jupiter on your ascendant. You're also going to be like catching flights, not always feelings. I guess the other thing that I would say is that, you know, your 4th house is where the North Node is and it's ruled by Mercury. So that tells me with a trine for Mercury in the 8th that you're open to the idea of going back and forth between two places, maybe keeping a place, renting it, trying a city out, going back and forth. I don't really see a lot of you feeling like you have to make any stable, real decisions about picking a lane until the end of summer. That's when this kind of starts to kind of come together. But whenever the South Node is in the 10th house, we're letting go of old responsibilities, stuff pertaining to work or responsibilities of being an adult. That is the same degree. It's very closely tied to an eclipse that we had. So you're going to see a lot of this stuff play out where there can be work changes, job changes, things like that that are going to be happening for you. And that's going to be in Sag season. Okay. South Node in Sag in the 10th is like, I don't want the responsibility of feeling all of this weight anymore. I don't want to do it all by myself anymore. I need somebody else to kind of assist me. That's the other way that I look at it. Don't be afraid to address the shadow stuff. Like I am going to tell you, with all these planets in the 8th house coming into a trine to Pluto, that natal Pluto or that Capricorn placement traditionally for you is somewhere between your 4th and your 5th house. Somebody can transition this year in the family, but it can also be a rebirth. So it's a rebirth of you, rebirth of your life, rebirth of inheritance, things like that. So that's the other way this can play out. Keep an eye on your taxes, watch your expenses, watch debt, try to get things paid off. Be aware of all insurance issues. Take that very seriously. Don't have any lapse in insurance, both health or your driving, okay? And this may be a year where you deal with fears or you deal with traumas, especially because we're looking at the 8th and the 12th house. So the fear of change, the fear of the unknown, the fear of being vulnerable, all of these things are going to start to come up for you. Personally, I think it's a really great year though. I'm excited to see that you have, you know, some positive aspects that are happening in spite of this being some challenging energy in September. I think you got in right before things started getting kind of funky. And Saturn in your 12th house is meditation is your best friend. Visualization is key. You want to visualize, get into that spiritual routine, be having that regularly and reminding yourself that change is inevitable. Okay. And obviously call me if you need me. Hey, I'm in Vegas too. I know we talked about this last time we were on the phone, but maybe we'll get drinks together. Happy birthday. Hope it's a good one. All right. So let's hop on over to Phoenix. Phoenix, it's nice to get a chance to chat with you. I've seen you pop up a little bit on my socials. Let's pull up your info. Let's see. I'm just trying to scroll up and see if I can find this. Give me just a second here. Can you tell me if I should pursue my paranormal or Wicca abilities? Ooh, I like it. Some of my favorite questions are questions like that. Let's take a look. So it looks like January 15th, 1973, Capricorn. 12:40 a.m. And let's see, did I get the city? You're living in Castro Valley, and where were you born? See if I can find this. Hey, Nancy. Yeah, you can do a relationship question if you don't know their birth time, sure. I'm just trying to see where you were born, Phoenix. Let me know. There we go. There we go. The Philippines. Got it. Oops. Okay. So let's look at this for Phoenix. Oh, hold on one second. Wrong one. There we go. So January 1573, and that was in Quezon City. Am I pronouncing that right? The Philippines? Let me know. So the question was having a question about pursuing your Wicca and paranormal abilities. Cool question. All right, so let's take a look. First, I just want to look just at the chart. Okay. Scorpio rising, sun in Capricorn. Ooh, you have some fun transits going on, and your moon is in Taurus. So, okay, so there's a couple reasons why this is coming up for you right now. One is just in transit. I'm just going based off of what I know because I don't want to overwhelm you right now. So you're a Capricorn sun. You've got Pluto transiting your sun right now. So there's like this fixation on otherworldly things, spirit phenomenon, the dead, you know, anything from seances to spirit boxes to all of these things, magic, mysterious things connecting with the other side. Your sun is at a 24 degrees. So it's like a Pisces version of Capricorn. And you've been going through transits like Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, all in your sign really like the last couple of years. So it should have you with your third house a couple things. One is like really fixated in reading and learning about this stuff. Two is like listening to like a lot of like videos and podcasts and audio things. Three, you may be getting into mediumship and actual like spirit communications or like channeling. Is there anything like that that's going on that you're interested in? Usually for like mediumship, yeah, the later degrees of Capricorn, I could definitely see, especially if you've got like a Pluto or a Neptune transit going on, and you do have that right now. Neptune is in a sextile to your sun, Pluto is on your sun, and you're getting ready to have an eclipse on your moon, ruler of the ninth house, which tells me that I do think that it's timely that you're going through this. I do think that it's a good move for you, especially because you do have your 8th house ruler, which is Mercury, conjunct your North Node. But I feel like you need to have like a mentor or somebody to work with, and B, you need to figure out like what your modality is going to be. The 3rd house can very much be like, you know, you doing something pertaining to like reading tarot cards, working with the pendulum. The 3rd house is the hands, channeling, writing. Like, is there anything like that you're getting interested in? Psychics, which is, yeah, I mean, that's all Capricorn, and you're really into it right now because Pluto is there and that's your chart ruler. And Capricorn, I feel, is like the sign that rules witches like more than any other sign. Like many people would like say like, oh, it could be Pisces, it could be Scorpio, but I feel like because Capricorn is the ancestors, specifically working with spirit communication or working with communication to the dead, or working with bones, or like into like necromancy or things like that. That's very Capricorn. And all of that trines your moon. It's just you seem to need a modality, and you definitely seem to need a mentor. That's what's coming up. When you were a kid and even now as an adult, psyche switches into paranormal. I would do that. I also think that considering Algol is conjunct your moon, I don't know if you're aware of that, but the moon at 26-27 of Taurus, it literally deals with, some people would say like, you know, there's two sides to Algol. Algol can be, in theory, some more kind of older astrologers would be like, it's a difficult placement. It deals with losing your head, or it deals with like possession or attachment. So I would say like be very careful with some of the transits that you're going through right now, because you have Pluto on your sun, it's trining your moon, and you can be more prone to entity attachment. I would go as far as saying like, do you have an interest in trying to get into like exorcisms, or like learning more about being an exorcist? Does that interest you? I mean, it really makes me wonder if that's going to be like something that you're going to get more into, just looking at your aspects and your transits. And if you are doing spell work, yeah, I mean, you're a Scorpio rising, you have Pluto in your 12th, you've got Saturn in your 8th, and, you know, Saturn in opposition to Mars is also like whatever occult stuff you're doing, it can have a physical effect on your body, or you can have a physical response to entities. So I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm just telling you, like, because there are some things that are being activated very strongly in your chart, I feel like either having a mentor or having like a specific modality that you work with would be helpful. And I would encourage you to learn more about spirit communication. And I also think it would be really, really good for you to move into the direction of learning about automatic writing or channeling. No exorcism, just a witch. Okay. You say that, but part of what I see is that you're going to start doing some kind of work with entities because you have a 24-degree sun. So if that's like you going, okay, I want to work with Lilith, right? And you may be going through this phase because you're having so many Pluto transits. Or I want to work with Hecate. Or I want to work with like one of the darker goddesses. There is going to be, you know, something coming up for you where you have the opportunity to be able to start working with deities and understanding some of the things that are coming through. I was told when I went to Sedona that I have a very strong aura. Sedona can be cool. They have like did you do the aura portraits, or did you do that where they take the photo and you can like see everything? I met so much in psychics there. I would say the other thing is that most of your energies, at least in your chart, seem to be coming strongly either from your hand. So I wonder if you practice psychometry, or if you can like read things if you pick it up. And two, also that you can actually see visions because your sun is at a 24. So you've got some cool Neptune sextiles that are happening for you right now. I would look into Pluto transiting your sun. I would look into Pluto trining your moon. I would look at having Algol on your moon. A lot of people associate Algol with Medusa. And that Medusa, if you look further and like deeper into the mythology of Medusa, that really you see that she's just kind of similar to an archetype actually of Lilith. And somebody who was like a darker goddess who was mistreated. So she can represent like feminists in a way. And also she can be somebody who you can work with for protection from dark magic, like for protection specifically from darker spells if you are somebody who's practicing. Honestly, I would look into that because I feel like an archetype for you would definitely probably be working with Algol or working with one of the darker goddesses as protection. You have a lot of earth in this chart. You have a lot of earth and you have a lot of water. And if this were me, I would be saying working with the element of air and earth you know, invoking. You can work with like a lot of dirt and like herbs and like other things, but you've got it in an air house. So writing your own spells, casting your own spells, speaking your spells out into fruition. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know. I know we're wrapping things up. We're getting ready to the end here. You're very welcome. Sorry, Sam, I'm just catching up. Oh, so just let me know if you want to get a reading. Let me check. Because for the subscriptions, we're just doing one a month. But if you have another question, we can do it. Looks like somebody else snuck in here. So we've got Nancy. Thanks, Nancy. So let me pull your info up really quick. $9,583. At 7:45 p.m. Houston. Happy belated birthday to you, Nancy. 1984. Is he trying to date me or establish a business relationship? Okay. Let's look. So I'm going to throw his stuff on top of yours and I'm going to see what I see. All right, so this is Nancy's chart, and then we've got Dude, January 9th, 84. Thanks, Flower, just got you. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's see. So she has questions about whether or not he's interested in her romantically or there is something else going on there if it's like business related. So he's got a sun in Capricorn. It's an opposition. Well, it's quincunxure Mars. His moon is in Aries, so it's on your ascendant. But you guys have Juno to Juno. So there may be something going on there where there is like more of like an interest or something that he has more in like a personal sense. Also, the outer wheel is him. He has his Mars conjuncture Pluto, which can be kind of steamy. He's got his Venus conjuncture natal Uranus, which means like, you know, he's kind of suddenly drawn to you, attracted to you. And his Jupiter's conjuncture South Node. It sounds pretty karmic to me. It sounds like there's more of an interest than just business here. I don't think it's just work related, especially because in this chart, Jupiter and Neptune sit in the 10th. So it's both an interest in you because you're Neptune and also work. So do you guys work together? Did you meet him through work? What's the deal here? I also kind of think that because his Venus-Uranus squares your sun, do you try to keep it more business related? Trying to see if I can find your comment in this. Are you trying to kind of keep it like more professional? I don't really see this as being like a purely just a work related thing. I think that the big thing that I would say is that because you've got Jupiter right now in your 12th house, so it's the ruler of your 10th coming into opposition with your moon and your Venus, whether it's him or other people, you're going to have people intermittently who come in through work that are a little bit more interested in you more than just, you know, your professional stuff. Oh, he's a client of yours. Okay. The one thing I would say is that, and I say this lovingly because I'm one of these people too, I have Venus conjunct Uranus, but Venus in Sag needs a lot of room to roam, okay? And he's got Venus conjunct Uranus conjunct the South Node. So this is somebody who's got a lot of breaks and patterns in relationships. And also he's got Venus and Uranus behind his sun. So I look at the eclipses that are still coming where there isn't something that really gets cleared out in his relationships until the end of this year. There's something that's like a clearing going on, or he's meeting karmic people and he's more so ready for like romantic connections like in the new year. Just a heads up. Thankfully he's got, you know, Pluto and Saturn off of his sun, so he's been kind of like reborn. And I don't know. I feel like you would have to have like a really strong aspect between Mars and Venus. And you guys do. His Jupiter trines your Venus. His Venus trines your Mars. There's definitely attraction there. But I don't really see him acting on it unless you give him the green light. Because that sun that you have, which is squaring his Venus, is like very, nope, this is work. This is work. Like I would say, finish the job, working together, doing whatever you're doing first, and like really have that clear defined line. And when you guys are either done working and having a session together, or when you're done, you know, having a meeting or whatever, or when you're done with whatever you guys are doing together, when you're finished, or when you have a nice breaking point, you have to be the one that gives him the green light. I know it's hard for you too, because you do have like Venus and the moon in Leo, so you need a lot of attention. There is like a sense of like you really needing somebody who's really going to chase after you. This guy ain't going to chase. He's going to ask you questions, but he's not going to chase. And my issue is just the fact that his Jupiter and his Neptune trines your Venus, where I want to see that you finish up the work stuff first, so it doesn't become a situation where he's just kind of sweet talking you because of whatever you guys have going on professionally. There needs to be a division between this. And I'm saying this also looking at it from his perspective as a Capricorn, where, you know, there's going to be some retrogrades and things over his sun where he needs to learn to give more. It could be a situation where he kind of clouds the connection. You're trying to get work done together, and then it becomes more difficult to work together professionally. And then there's like a little bit of like a falling off in the new year. He wants me to massage his rugby team. Is he on the team? I mean, the one thing that I would say is that because you have a Mercury retrograde that's building in your 7th house, which can be like, okay, is this a relationship or is this work? What's going on? You don't really gain clarity in this whole situation for a little while. So a lot of what I said in an earlier reading to somebody else about like the retrograde happening, because Mercury's going to go retrograde over your Pluto. Business first, romantic stuff second. Focus on the business, do the deal, get paid, all of that stuff. Like it needs to be separated. Otherwise there's like a lot of fuzziness. Kids. Like it really needs to be separate. Because I don't want to see this being something where you're mixing business and pleasure and then he kind of like drifts off, because that's kind of what I see could happen. Don't cut anybody any deals. It's hard for him to resist you also because his Mars is your Pluto. That's some like really hot, steamy, like sexual aspects. And it sextiles your Venus. So certainly physically, sexually it would be really good, but that's besides the point. Get paid first, because you don't want to mix business and pleasure when you have a Mercury retrograde in your 8th. Especially when it is going to come into squares later on down the road. I do think that there's an interest though. I think it's really hard for him to resist because all of his Jupiter, you know, Neptune trines your Venus and your moon. So he'll give you attention, but once again, it's in a working sense. You're not really going to know where you stand until closer to January. Get paid first. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so last but not least, we've got Flower was asking, what do you see happening in the next 6 months? 8/18/1971. Well, that's a wrap for tonight, guys. This will be my last person. Thank you guys for joining me. 7:24 a.m. And that was in Bridgeport, Connecticut. That gives you Virgo rising, Sun in the 12th, and Moon in the 11th. Holy cow. Holy cow, holy cow, holy cow, holy cow, holy cow. When I look at this chart, oh my God. Girl, Can we talk about the fact that you've got Jupiter in opposition to your sun Venus right now, and you've got Pluto coming in opposition with your moon? That's huge, huge, huge. And there's a yod forming between Pluto, Neptune, and your sun Venus. What is going on? Are you desperately trying to get out of your comfort zone? Are you trying to find a partner? Are you trying to open up more and learn how to be a little bit more available? Like this constitutes a whole reading. I'm going to tell you as much as I can for one question, but the big thing that I'm looking at is that Pluto in your 5th house is coming into an opposition with your Cancer moon. Okay? That's number 1. So I've got you, like I said, Virgo rising, sun in Leo, moon in Cancer in the 11th. When Pluto is coming into an opposition with your moon, you will see between really this year and like, let's say March, April of next year, Pluto's going to come into an opposition with your moon. So prepare yourself. Usually that's like a big change emotionally, a big change with your roots, with your home, sometimes with your family. Pluto rules your 3rd house, so it can be siblings. It can also be about communication. It can be about relocating, moving. But Pluto is about facing fears when it's in opposition to Cancer, and responsibility. So if you're somebody who has children, it's a lot of reflecting on your relationship with your children. It can be painful. If you don't have children, it's reflecting on how you feel about not having kids. It can be dealing with stuff pertaining to what happened in your childhood, and it's trying to desperately get you to like crack open your heart and be vulnerable. And I say that because it's not just an opposition to your moon, but it's creating a yod or a quincunx to your sun, which is the ruler of the 12th house. And so you're a 12th houser, Venus, the sun, the south node, Juno is there. There is this sense of, on one hand, super talented, very creative, like very artistic, very theatrical, dramatic. But there can be a sense of holding yourself off from the world, or kind of staying away from the world, or hiding out. I don't know if that's something that you feel. But what's building right now is, like I said, Pluto forming a yod with Neptune, and it's trying to get you to open up to relationships and learn that it's not just about your fears of abandonment. It's not just about your fears of being left alone. It's not just about your fears of being hurt. It's not just about the past, daddy issues, 12th house sun. It's also about where that has gone on for too long and given you this illusion or this belief that you're alone, or that people don't see you, or that you're not worthy, or that, you know, whatever it is that you've been thinking. So it's working on that for you very strongly right now. And if this started coming up for you in this last year or so, I'm a loner, Donnie. It's something I used to say that all the time. If that's been coming up for you this year, I feel like it's coming up for you because Jupiter has been in opposition to all of your planets in your 6th house. So what's nice is that you're aware of it, you're working on it, you're wanting to be of service, you're wanting to work on your routines, you're wanting to kind of strengthen and heal physically and emotionally, psychologically. But my advice to you is get the show on the road. And I say this with love, because what's going to happen here is in a number of months, when Saturn comes into an opposition with Venus and your sun, it is going to be harder to do this work. You will experience Saturn and Mars coming into an opposition next spring, March, April, with your sun and your Venus, and it's going to square the nodes. So it can be a situation where you're like, you're in another isolated situation, or you're going through some physical healing, or you're going through some job change, or you're some schedule restriction that's not really allowing you to merge with other people. And Saturn will intermittently be in opposition to your sun and your Venus for about a year, and Pluto will oppose your moon. Big changes are coming for you next year. I encourage you to keep moving forward with the healing. I also will tell you that you want to pay attention to what's physically going on with your body, because a lot of these emotions that you're not dealing with, because the 6th house can be illness, can physically come up as illness for you next year. You can have issues with your ankles because it's Aquarius. There can be issues with your circulation. There can be blood pressure issues, digestional issues, issues also with heart-related things. You got all that Leo. You know, the heart, the back is also very Leo. Things pertaining to like back pain, right? And mobility, that can come up for you. So I don't know if that's something that you've dealt with. To me, this seems like there needs to be a lot of like working stuff out with your muscles, like maybe getting massages or maybe even looking at some acupuncture, right? That can be really helpful. But you have what's building into what's going to be a T-square and a grand fixed cross next year. So it's going to make you, you know, work on your 12th house of psychological, spiritual stuff, working on your 3rd house of communication, working on your 6th house of help and of service, working on also your 9th house of your beliefs. You need knee surgery. Do not put things off. Had heart surgery and sciatica. I'm not a doctor. I'm going to keep telling people this. The same way I'm not a financial forecast advisor or anything else. But I happen to know things. And I know that the physical bodies have reactions as a result of emotions and things that we don't deal with. So I look at this chart and I go, you're prime time to have issues and yeah, need a surgery, but I would be more concerned about how, if you have health issues next year, if you haven't really worked on that stuff, like the healing process can take longer. Yes, work. Yes, I get that. That's Saturn in the 6th, but it's also needing assistance. And Saturn in Aquarius is friends. It's not even about relationships, although I think relationship stuff is going to show up for you. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about friendships, right? And who your friends are and who shows up for you and who is there for you. So it's also about fulfilling your cup more so in a friendship sense. Although Jupiter is going to be really nice in your 7th house, right? And then I look at Jupiter sextiling Pluto and it's all making a yod to planets in your 12th house. Be careful. You can find yourself in a situation where you're isolated and you're hanging out on the internet and you have some kind of long distance relationship with some foreigner or somebody in another city or in another place, and you're talking to them and you're going back and forth with them for a year and you fall in love with this person, but you can't see them because we're in lockdown. Or you're dealing with health issues and it's like a whole year of being at a distance and falling in love with somebody, which isn't a bad thing. But it's that sense of the 12th house really kicking in and being like, oh, but I can't see them. I can't hug them. I can't get to them, right? So it wants you to start dealing with this work now. Okay? And because it's such a complex square, and I love this because everybody we've spoken to tonight, pretty much everybody we've spoken to has these fixed squares. That's how the session tonight started, was with a yod involving fixed planets. And this is how it's ending. So one bit of advice that I would give you, definitely listen to your horoscope. Read your horoscope for Virgo and for Leo. Virgo first. And you're going to hear a lot of stuff in this next year about relationships, and will you move, and what's changing, and all of that stuff, and whether or not you're connecting with people at a distance. And that's going to keep coming up for you. It's your thoughts and your philosophies changing about relationships. But eventually, Saturn will come out of this opposition. Granted, it's not going to be until 2023. But you will be done with that. So that will be nice. And it's all the setup for you eventually going deeper into relationships and vulnerability from 2023 on. If you need some help and assistance, especially next spring, consider getting a reading. I'm happy to talk with you if that helps. Don't hide your talents. You're so magical. Yeah, I would say do the surgery. Do not do the surgery. Do not do the surgery during the Mars retrograde. Not Mars retrograde, excuse me, the Venus retrograde. Find a good date for the surgery. That takes time, but I would just say off the bat, Libra season's not terrible. We're coming into Libra season, so I don't know if you can do that. I guess the other option maybe is like the beginning of December. It's kind of hard to say. I'd have to really sit down and kind of look, because I like recommending surgeries like when the moon is in Scorpio or when there's aspects into your 8th house. But just know that there is a Venus retrograde, which does deal with health. And that's going to be from about, I think, December, the end of December into early February, I believe. You can look up the dates. I know it goes from the second half of December at least until the end of January, maybe get the beginning of February. And there will be a Mercury retrograde also happening that will go from Aquarius to Capricorn. So it really is pushing you, trying to get it done this year. So It's hard to say exactly when. Libra season could work because you'll see aspects to your 6th house. Equally, Sag season could work. Put me on your schedule, even if you have one question. You guys aren't aware of that. I'm a busy lady. I usually book out anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks at a time. If you want to book a reading with me, I would love to talk to you. I've got some openings in October and November. Check out my links below. Check out my website, beyondtheveiltarot.com. And if you can't wait, I recommend this. What you see that's available, book it. Send me an email. We can put you on a wait list. Also, I offer one question. So if you have one question, really in depth, ask your question. I can look at it. I can send you a response. I usually get back to people within a week, and I send you a voice memo of what I see. It's tarot, clairvoyant, and intuitive astrology readings. I'm here every Friday. Those of you guys who joined my subscription service, thank you very much. It was lovely getting a chance to chat with you. There's some new people that are in here tonight. Super awesome. Thank you guys for watching. I should be back next week. I'm here every other Friday. Next Friday is going to be tarot. Stay tuned. I'm getting ready to kind of film and get everything ready for the video that's coming up on Monday. We have a full moon that's coming in Pisces, so I want to kind of get that out early and start talking to you guys about it because we've definitely got a lot of astrology that's kind of heating up this week, so I'm going to try and get it out when I can. Be sure to check out my other videos. I've got a crypto video out, and I've got some other stuff that's kind of sprinkled in there, and I'm going to do some other things intermittently when I have time. But I also have a podcast. Check out the Midheaven podcast. All the links are on my community tabs, and you can check out all of my social media. If you want to follow me, I just recently got on TikTok, but I'm pretty active on Instagram. So those of you guys have Instagram, I am happy to be providing you guys with all of the memes and all of those goodies because that's what the world needs is more laughter. I hope to see all of you guys very soon. I hope you have a happy weekend. And yeah, I will be checking in with you guys shortly. Enjoy the rest of the week. Take care.